Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Jashana here with the worst lighting situation of my life at the moment. The sun is going down. I have no natural light. All I have for other lighting is a couple of lamps that I brought in here. My one standing lamp I normally use, and then my little tiny, about this big around ring light. So I'll have to try to, I don't know, fix it when I'm editing, but if the lighting is really piss poor, I'm sorry. I only want to film a couple of videos, so it should be okay, but yeah, fingers crossed that it's not as terrible as I think it is. I'm talking about a couple of books that I have read recently today. The first one I will have talked about already in my Sookie rant video, so I'm not going to talk about it a whole hell of a lot here, but that is Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris. This is the first book of the Sookie Stackhouse series, and I had originally started my series reread last year when I read the first 4 books, and then I waited a really long time to continue, and then this year is when I read books 5 through 13. It had been a long time since I read these prior to last year, and I think that when I read them last year, I had a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in it, and I wasn't really reading them super critically, again, the same way I didn't the first time I read them 10 years ago. And I gave the first 4 books all 4 stars. So when I continued the series this year, and it just started to go further and further downhill, I was curious if I truly liked these books that much better, or if there was just nostalgia playing a huge part. Nostalgia was definitely playing a part. The plot of these first couple of, of this first book, because this is the only one I ended up rereading recently, I was just like, yeah, I got the gist of it. I ended up changing my rating of the first 4 to 3 stars for each of them. The plots are definitely more solid and less just random as all hell and making no sense. And Sookie is slightly less annoying, but she's still pretty annoying. But the thing is, her annoying traits are in this book, but the good traits that I connected with about her are also more prevalent in this book and in the first few books. As the series went on, those things kind of got lost and she became only annoying to me. So at any rate, I changed it to 3 stars for these first books. And I'm going to keep them simply because I can't trade them in. I can't get rid of them. It has like my phone number. It's an old resume thing, so I'm not gonna put this anywhere. I mean, I could just rip it off, but also I could just keep them kind of for memory, you know. Next up, I read Demons, Monks, and Lovers by Antoine Bandelet, Matthew Chapman, and Callan Brown. Obviously, there are multiple authors. This is a novella short story collection. I think they're all novellas, technically. Yeah, shorts, novelettes, and novellas. I don't know the difference between all of them, but here you are. This is part of the Tales of Essuan larger series, which the Kishi, well, you can't see it, I don't think, but by Antoine Bandelet, that is a full novel in that world, and then also by Sea and Sky, which I read this year, and that's in the larger world. These ones all surround the land, the city, and the characters in the Kishi. It has been a hot minute since I read the Kishi. This made me want to reread it though. It's all African inspired, I think largely Angola inspired, mythology, fantasy, etc. And yeah, this is the bind up of these 3 stories: Last of My Kind, A Servant's Work, and Hearts in the Dark. And I think reading the Kishi sooner, or like around the same time, would have made it an even more enjoyable experience. But it, like I said, this did make me want to reread the Kishi, because I was like, oh, I know I'm forgetting certain things, I know I'm forgetting connections, but the first 2 novellas, shorts, are basically like prequels of characters that are in the Kishi, and then the third one, Hearts in the Dark, is kind of like a companion novella to the Kishi. Like the events happening in Hearts in the Dark are happening at the same time as events in the Kishi, from memory, from what my memory serves me. I could be horribly wrong. Yeah, I liked all 3 of these. On my 1 to 10, I gave this a 7, which translates to 4 Pushinicorns. I'll probably reread the Kishi soon. There's another novella coming out though that, oh my God, I'm so excited for it. I think I talked about it before. I can't remember the name of it now. I've seen the cover in his Discord server. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's with like fairy sprites, etc. And he has said that it's like the movie Hustlers with J-Lo, but like with fairies. Sign me the fuck up. Next up, we have a DNF. Bummer times. And that is From Unseen Fire by Cass Morris. I was very looking forward to this. Fantasy, historical, ancient Rome, but like with magic. And it's not ancient Rome, but like it is. It's a made-up world heavily based on ancient Rome, but it's basically like, what if there were people with magical abilities when the dictator goes away? And yeah, it sounded really cool. This cover is gorgeous. I don't know if there's a glare if you can see it, but it's really, really pretty. And I was bored. I got like, how far into it did I get? I don't remember. At least this, oh yeah, like 100 pages. Yeah, that's right. I read up to around 100 pages. And it's like 300 some page book, so almost 400 pages. But yeah, so I read like about a fourth of it, and I just was dragging ass. I wasn't really loving it. It's very heavily political, but like, I don't know, not for me personally, it wasn't in an exciting way. You know, I think about like interesting political machinations and such. And I mean, I think of Game of Thrones, right? Your Littlefingers and Varys's and Cersei's and all the things going on behind it, and Tyrion too, like all the things going on with these types of characters and going on behind the scenes and the maneuvering they're doing, the strategizing they're doing. It's all very interesting to me, but in this, it wasn't interesting. There's a lot of fucking names that I don't know why I was having I read a lot of fantasy with a lot of names. The Faithful and the Fallen series, Malice, there's so many characters, but like I was hooked into that world and into that story pretty early. So even though there were times where I was a bit, oh, who's that again? Let me go back to the glossary. Okay, that's who they are. With this one, I don't know, it was too much, I guess. So yeah, going back to the library. Next up, I recently finished, I think yesterday? I don't remember. At any rate, The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. So this is young adult historical paranormal fantasy. It's set in the mid-1800s. There's a young woman, Celine, our main character, who flees her home in Paris after a traumatizing incident to New Orleans, where she is placed into a convent for young women, you know, without homes or families. She immediately meets some very interesting and mysterious locals who are also very well known with a kind of fearsome reputation. Celine is getting really caught up in the potential for danger and adventure. She's in the new world. She's really excited. She craves adventure in her life and freedom. But a murderer strikes and continues to strike people that are in her circle, people she knows is close to, and it is quickly realized that she's probably a target. The murderer attempts to attack her as well, and now she's afraid for her life, but has to decide what she's gonna do about this, if anything. There are definite themes of feminism, women's rights. Celine really hates that she is supposed to behave a certain way and believe certain things and uphold certain moral beliefs. Basically, that she has to be a proper Christian lady. She kind of just hates everything that comes with that, all of the assumptions and all of the restrictions. She really, really just wants autonomy of her own life. So, the vampire stuff. We occasionally get the perspective of a character who seems evil and who we quickly see is stalking Celine, and they almost immediately call themselves an immortal creature and attack a young woman via attacking her throat with their mouth. And then pretty soon after, they call themselves a vampire. So everybody who told me that there were literally no vampires, or like the word vampire was not in this book, you've lied to me. It was in here multiple times. Now, it wasn't on every other page, but it was in here more than once. Like, they called themselves vampires and immortal creatures, and they, like, attacked people and drank their blood. There are also allusions to other immortal creatures, and there's a dark fae character who we see. And then there's constant reference to the Fallen and the Brotherhood, but you don't really learn what that's all about until the very end. And I feel like people must have just expected this to be more like Twilight or the Sookie Stackhouse series, or a more like modern paranormal fantasy where, like I said, like on every other page you're like, vampire, it's a vampire. I'm gonna Google what these things are. It's a vampire. And that was not how it was at all. It was much more subtle, for sure. So I can see if you were wanting that and like desperate for that, and then didn't get that and you were like blindsided, I guess I could see being like disappointed. But to me it made sense that it was a lot more subtle, because we're following this chick in like Victorian era, and like imagine, even in our modern day, okay, imagine in real life, actually in your real life, not in a fictional world, and someone was like, hey, vampires are a thing. I'm dead serious. You'd be like, okay. Sure. Like, we know that they're not actually real, right? I mean, I know I've seen, there's a show, it's like Dark Travel or Dark Tourist or something, where he goes and like travels to places with like weird fringe people. And there's one, I think it was in New Orleans too, where these people live as vampires. Like, they're dead ass serious. They think they're vampires. So anyway, but most of us know the vampires are not real, right? So like, that's more realistic to me, to have a character, especially in Victorian era New Orleans, who's like, these people seem kind of weird, and I hear they're really dangerous, and they seem a little otherworldly, but like, my mind doesn't go to vampire because I don't believe that vampires are real. Like, that's not what you would think in real life. Your first thought wouldn't be, vampire? Like, no, it wouldn't. So I don't know, it didn't really bother me. I felt like it was realistic to our real world. Like, nobody would just jump to, you know what, they're kind of weird, I bet they're a vampire. So yeah, we were discovering it as Celine was discovering it, and it didn't bother me. I thought it was fine. The plot itself was also what I would call like a subtle, slower, quieter plot. Wasn't super action-packed or quick-paced necessarily. And a couple of times the plot felt like there was a couple things that were a little bit convenient or contrived or weak, just weaker plot points, but nothing to annoy me greatly necessarily. I enjoyed the romance. It was a little bit insta-lovey, but again, how many times have you seen a period movie, right? Or read a book that's set in like a Victorian era, and people will like go to tea and meet this man that they're perhaps interested in, or he's got a lot of money and your family thinks you should marry him. And the character will meet him and have like one conversation and then be smitten. And he is such a good gentleman, and we're going to get married. We're madly in love with each other. It's like, how are you in love with each other? You barely had a conversation. But I don't know, it's prevalent in all of these types of stories, so I don't necessarily question it a whole hell of a lot in this type of setting, in this historical setting. I just kind of see it as that seems, I mean, I don't know how realistic that is, like how historically accurate that is, but everybody does it in all their period piece story. So I just kind of go with it, I guess. It didn't really bother me. And I liked the little moments they were having. I definitely want more of their romance. With how things left off, though, we'll see. I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah. I'm going to read the next book. I really liked Celine as a character. There were definitely things, like I said, about the plot that were a little weaker for me, and I wasn't necessarily madly in love with this book, but I enjoyed it. I had a pretty good time reading it, and I will read the next one. I think it's just a duology, and I hear that the next book, if you didn't really love the first book, that the next book is better, so we'll see how I feel about it. On my 1 to 10, I gave it a 6.85, which translates to 3.5 Pusheenacorns. That's all. Those are the books. 3 that I actually read and 1 that I DNF'd. Don't forget, you can click to join as a member of my channel for some fun little perks if you would like. Just click the join button down below or in the description bar. There is a link if you're on mobile or something and you don't see the join button, and you will see all of the various tiers and the perks that come along with them. And if you're interested, you can join. Don't forget to leave an emoji if you want to give a little wave, but you don't have much to say or contribute. Any thoughts on these books? Always appreciate seeing your emojis. I love it when people do random ones too. I love any of them, they're fun. But I love it when people do really just random out of nowhere ones. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.